Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Blitzkrieg, our own strategic affairs show. There is a perceptible, a very visible change in the mindset of the Pakistani establishment and the political leadership vis-a-vis India. Imran Khan Niazi recently said that rising foreign debt is the primary national security concern of Pakistan, and Fawad Chaudhry, a cabinet minister in Pakistan, said that India is no longer our enemy number one. Our enemies exist within Pakistan. Now, this has never been said in Pakistan before. This is very unique and in some ways very strange. Today, we'll seek to decipher what these statements mean and what do our experts make out of these statements. I have with me Captain Alok Bansal here, representing the Indian point of view. Captain Alok Bansal, sir, a very warm welcome to our show. And I also will have Faisal Rahman joining in very shortly, and we'll get him to the screen as soon as the link is through. Captain Bansal, my question to you, sir, is this. Imran Khan says that rising foreign debt is the primary source of or the primary national security threat for Pakistan. And this is something that, you know, even General Bajwa, in a roundabout fashion, had said in the Islamabad dialogues last year, where he said, get rid of geostrategy, talk about geoeconomics. Do you think that Pakistan, while still fixated on Kashmir, while still, fixated with India, there is a little realization in Pakistan that the enemies are within Pakistan and not outside?
See, in Pakistan, from time to time, this sort of statements have been made. And there is no doubt the economic reality for Pakistan is very, very grave. Though the foreign exchange reserves per se at this point of time are not bad, but they have taken a huge debt, and a very, very large percentage of their budgetary allocation goes towards debt servicing. Now, Pakistan has been so much indebted that they have to run to Saudi Arabia because they need an oil facility. Otherwise, they want to align with Turkey. Now, because they have to borrow from Saudi Arabia, they have to actually change their foreign policies. So I think that realization is dawning that, yes, irrespective of what they have been wanting to do, if they are not economically self-sufficient and if this debt continues to rise, they will have to actually follow the diktats from foreign powers. Also, I don't think so their fixation with Kashmir has reduced. The only thing is at this point of time, they need to actually bother more about their economic survival. And now with Afghanistan also under Taliban, and which is not really getting any foreign aid, the huge population of Afghanistan is actually seeking food grains and support from Pakistan because they are the ones who have brought this regime to power. So I think the economic pressure on Pakistan actually has increased continuously. The only redeeming factor for Pakistan has been that the remittances that they are getting from primarily from Middle East and the Western countries have been rising year after year. But otherwise, if you look at it, Pakistan's tax to GDP ratio is amongst the lowest in this part of the world. In fact, it's much lower than India, Bangladesh and other countries. The amount of their GDP shrank, and in fact, their population growth is amongst the highest in this part outside the Arab world and sub-Saharan Africa. So they have major issues. Their public sector undertakings are losing huge money.
Bansal, I agree with you there that their remittances are rising year on year, and overseas Pakistanis are sending a lot of money home. But you do not run a country on remittances, sir. Their exports are absolutely crippled. The power situation in Pakistan is bad. The cost of per unit power, per unit electricity is so bad that Pakistani goods are now non-competitive or uncompetitive in the market. And over and above, Pakistan has crossed 50 trillion rupees. You know, it's written right here. I've taken down these notes in debt and liabilities. They've crossed 50 trillion rupees. Where do you see Pakistan going from now? I mean, the fascination with Kashmir and Palestine and jihad and all that is absolutely fine. And they are welcome to have their foreign policy revolve around jihad. But the fact of the matter is that Pakistan's economy is sinking and it cannot be supported only by foreign remittances.
there is no doubt. We need to look at it. In fact, in 2020-2021, if you look at it, the FDI fell by about 29%. Even China, which has been actually the bulk of their the biggest supporter, the FDI actually last year reduced from to $758 million from $846.6 billion the previous year. So no country in the world wants to invest in Pakistan, considering the security situation that prevails there. Even the trade deficit has been widening, though of course after the COVID there has been a increase both in export and imports, but the trade deficit has widened considerably. And as I said, according to World Bank reports, you look at the fiscal deficit, you look at the current account deficits, all are rising. But having said that, they are dependent on IMF, and if this IMF negotiations come through and they get another tranche of loan, their foreign exchange reserves will be fairly okay. But this is only a temporary reprieve. In long term, Pakistan will continue to be dependent on the grants from these countries, so-called friendly countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, China, etc., which have been parking their funds in Pakistan's central bank so that the foreign exchange reserves get boosted up. So when these countries do that, they also want Pakistan to do their bidding when they are actually asking it to do in the international arena. Like if you remember earlier, the UAE Deputy Foreign Minister had made a very, very harsh statement against Pakistan when Pakistan had refused to join that coalition against Yemen. And even now, when Pakistan wanted to join with Turkey and Malaysia and do a conference in Malaysia, I think Saudi Arabia cracked the whip and Pakistan had to backtrack. So their sovereignty, their independent foreign policy all get compromised because of this economic crisis. And unless, of course, Pakistan does a major correction, no country is going to invest in Pakistan, and that you can see in terms of FDI that has been reducing consistently. And tax to GDP ratio, which has not risen because a large chunk of population has not been brought within the tax net.
Yes. Absolutely, Captain Bansal. Thank you very much, sir, for your comments. I have Faisal Rahman. Faisal, very warm welcome to our show. Faisal Rahman is a senior journalist and political analyst. He joins us live from Islamabad. Faisal, rising foreign debt is a national security threat. So says Imran Khan. Is there a change in thinking in Islamabad? Because suddenly, you see, the people who were supposed to be paid by India, I'm talking about the Tehreek-e-Labbaik, who were apparently raw agents running around Pakistan, are suddenly good people. People like the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, who were supposedly paid by raw in India. Imran Khan is talking to everybody. And then we have Fawad Hussain Chaudhry, who's a senior cabinet minister in Imran Khan's cabinet, saying that the biggest national security challenges to Pakistan are from within and not from India. He specifically mentioned India in his statement, and he said that India is not a threat. Our threats are inside. My question to you, Faisal, is that do you see a change in Pakistan's thinking?
I mean, you were breaking up a lot, but what I've gathered from your question is that perhaps you're talking about the overall economic situation of Pakistan. Well, in certain areas, I agree with you that, Pakistan should have done a lot better, which we did not over a period of time. There were issues.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Faisal Rahman, my apologies. My apologies for interrupting you. I'm not talking about the economic situation of Pakistan. That was Captain Alok Bansal's point. My point to you is Imran Khan's statement. I'd like you to analyze Imran Khan's statement, in which Imran Khan said that, rising foreign debt is a huge national security risk. I'd like you to analyze Imran Khan's statement.
All right. I believe that, a country like Pakistan, with a population of around 22 crore, and with a GDP of around 300 billion. I still remember that the ideal situation would have been that debt to GDP ratio would have been around 60%. But unfortunately, it has risen and it went up to 83.1% of the total GDP. That is very high. On top, rupee got devalued against the dollar, and it's hovering around 176 rupees for a single dollar. Now, that is of prime concern because, 60% of the budget of Pakistan is actually, it goes towards debt servicing. the principal amount as well as the interest, and that is pretty alarming. You are hardly left with 40 rupees out of 100, for your defense, for your PSDP, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, Imran Khan, whatever he said was very right, because at the end of the day, today it's not about having bombs or having tanks or having aircrafts. It's about the economic strength of any country. That is why we are really emphasizing on regional connectivity, and we are trying and looking forward that countries should come in and invest in Pakistan. But yes, one should call a spade, that we haven't been able to build that kind of a conducive environment so far, where the investor would be coming in and investing. And especially one major area, when you talk about IMF, or perhaps you talk about World Bank and so on and so forth, all these financial institutions, at the end of the day, I literally believe that if you do not utilize that kind of money wisely, it becomes a headache. It becomes something which is beyond your control. I mean, I'm sure you must have read The Economic Hitman and the second part by John Perkins. I mean, this is exactly what happens. Countries like Pakistan get into the trap, and that is something which is very alarming. And I totally believe that Pakistan should work on a couple of areas. For example, better governance. They should definitely work on controlling their expenditure, increasing their own revenue, domestic revenue, through tax collection. And that is a very pathetic department, I would say, unfortunately, because we depend on indirect taxes rather than direct taxes. And we always talk about increasing the tax base, which is again a problem. As far as Imran Khan is concerned, so I do believe that, national security
Faisal,
isn't about
Faisal,
your borders or your internal, it's about your food, water, environment, so on and so forth.
Sure.
And your
So Faisal, let
debt
me
is a
throw
problem.
another question
Yes.
at you. Let me throw another question at you, Faisal, and then I'll come to Captain Alok Bansal back. My question to you is, for a very long time, and this is something that I, as an Indian, cannot understand. Whenever the Pakistani Prime Minister goes abroad, or whenever any person from the cabinet, or any, let's say the foreign minister goes abroad, or whether any Pakistani of significance is addressing the United Nations or talking at the United Nations, I have never heard them talking about Pakistan. I've not heard them talking about, how Pakistan can progress, how the Pakistani economy can progress, how we should not simply depend on remittances or loans or aid, how we can, increase our exports, how we can widen our tax base. There could be domestic conversation on this, but on global platforms, all I've heard Pakistanis and especially Imran Khan discussing is Afghanistan, Kashmir and Palestine, Islamophobia, Hindutva, RSS, Modi. That's it. I mean, he is, after all, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And he's welcome to talk about Kashmir. Kashmir is very important to Pakistan. It's important to India as well. And you're welcome to talk about Kashmir, but once in a while, don't you think it will be okay if the Pakistani Prime Minister spoke about Pakistan?
Whenever you are at the international forum like United Nations, obviously you're more concerned, or you are utilizing your typical time for the international issues. And obviously Kashmir is one of the major issues. Afghanistan is a neighboring country that has a lot of issues going on after the Taliban regime took over, financial crunch. I mean, their banking system is about to collapse. So all these things do matter, whether it's Iran or Middle East or Islamophobia or environment, whatever. But yes, you're right that I think the most important factor is about your internal security. And your internal security is not only about looking after the non-state actors and cleaning the Taliban or something. It's about your financial strength. At the end of the day, that is what matters. Look at countries like Hong Kong or perhaps Singapore. They're small countries, but since their economic strength is so much, look at the kind of trade they do. So that is something very important, and I totally agree with you. And at the same time, when you talk about,
All right.
increasing the exports,
Faisal Rahman, I'll interrupt. We are going in for a very short break. I request our viewers to stay put with us. We'll be back very shortly. And Faisal Rahman, I think that was a slip of the tongue. You called Hong Kong a country. I don't think your Chinese friends will be very pleased. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A very interesting conversation between Captain Alok Bansal and Faisal Rahman from Pakistan. I'll go to Captain Alok Bansal, and my next question to you is this. Pakistan has always projected itself as a security state. Right from the day it was created, Now, I'd like to ask you, because of this security state complex, the deep state, the establishment, the army, call it what you will, is this one of the reasons why Pakistan, apart from financial mismanagement, apart from the lack of policy, do you think that Pakistan is also in a bad shape because of this? Their obsession
If you
about
actually look at
their obsession about getting into an arms race with India.
See, the problem is, in Pakistan's case, army has assigned itself to the role of not only the territorial defenders of the country, they have also assigned to themselves the ideological defenders of the country. Now, if you look at the budget, after the interest payments, the largest head is defense affairs, and which does not include pensions. So it's a much larger figure. The second factor we need to understand that Pakistan also knows that for its economic salvation, it needs to trade with India. That's the only solution. It needs to have a normal trading relation with India. If you remember in 47-48, GATT had made an exception for India and Pakistan because the economies were so intertwined. Now, because of this security state paranoia and this sort of a complex which Pakistan army has projected, that there is an existential threat to Pakistan from India, they have actually not gone for normal economic relations. And as a result, there are a large number of commodities, etc., which they are importing at a much higher cost than they could have got it from India. And as this domination of Pakistan's army, because if you remember, there was a time when Nawaz Sharif was considering giving a MFN status to India, the ISPR, the DG ISPR made a statement that we have a viewpoint on grant of MFN status to India. Now, if an army has to take that sort of foreign relations, dealing with foreign economic relations, it actually affects the country. And as a result, most of the economic decisions have not been taken on account of pragmatism, but because of this overarching influence of the army, which has a security consideration. We also need to look at radicalization in Pakistan and its impact. Because of radicalization, what we are seeing is that FDI is not coming because the internal security situation remains problematic. When Imran Khan became prime minister, he wanted to set up an economic advisory council where he had a leading economist who happened to be from Ahmadiyya community. So as soon as he was appointed, there was pressure and he had to resign. So because of these twin pressure points, that is, one is security forces and the other is the radical Islamist organizations, pragmatic economic policies have not been adhered to by Pakistan right from its inception. And this is the impact of that which we are seeing. So if you see, the largest single head of expenditure after interest payment is defense affairs, which is actually many times, which is at least 1.5 times the federal FSDP, what they call it, federal PSDP. So that's one of the reasons, the overarching influence of army and the radical Islamists that actually affects normal economic.
Right. We got your point, Captain Bansal. Your point is noted. I'll go to Faisal Rahman. Faisal Rahman, I wanted to ask you, all right, Article 370, 35A, Imran Khan does not like India. That's okay. You don't want to have trade with India, even if it's cheap. That's okay. Europe, from where you get the GSP Plus and billions of dollars of trade per year, why has Imran Khan not visited Europe ever since he became the Prime Minister? Okay, can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yeah. Now you are, because previously I couldn't even hear your guest, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Okay. No, I'm asking you, Faisal, I'm asking you a question that's totally unrelated to what Captain Alok Bansal said. This is different. I'm saying that while Pakistan does not wish to have trade with India, and that's all right, that is Pakistan's internal policy, why has Imran Khan not visited Europe ever since he became the Prime Minister? You have the GSP Plus from Europe. You do billions of dollars of trade. You have remittances from Pakistanis living abroad in Europe, in the European Union. Why hasn't, and Imran Khan has gone on to say that he understands Europe better than the Europeans, he understands America better than the Americans, he understands Uzbekistan better than the Uzbek, he understands the world better than all the people living on planet Earth. Now, why hasn't Imran Khan gone to Europe?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And, honestly speaking, he should have gone and should have visited countries like UK, perhaps Scandinavian countries. I mean, most of our former prime ministers, they've been there. And to build up that, if you talk about the last year and a half, perhaps it is due to Corona. And honestly speaking, ever since Imran Khan came into power, I mean, the opposition is not letting him even, function easily. And at the same time, I would say that even, there is another very legitimate question that why hasn't the American president so far spoken to the prime minister? And unfortunately, that is because when you talk about Afghan issue, the Americans have always looked at Pakistan through the prism of Afghanistan. And that's very unfortunate. And, AFPAC concept and then do more kind of an agenda. And Pakistan has been very categorical. And perhaps that could be one of the reasons that I think the shift or the
Faisal Rahman, my apologies. I've absolutely run out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Blitzkrieg. A very important and a very interesting discussion. Captain Alok Bansal sir, thank you very much. Faisal Rahman, thank you very much. I'll see you again next week. And from our team at the Republic Studios here in Delhi, thank you and Jai Hind.